Welcome to Time to Think, a very timely and appropriate thought for our chaotic times, wouldn't you say? For it really is a time for an alert to all Christians to think about a message that Jesus couldn't tell us until now. And if you're a thinking person, your spiritual life is sure to be enhanced with what you're about to experience. By the way, I'm Ed Sager, the author of the books and CDs offered on this site. You'll soon discover that I'm the type of person that has to know how things work. You know, the 10-year-old kid that took the grandfather clock apart. So what can I say? I even have to know how spiritual things work. It even has to make logical sense. Like 2 plus 2 being 4, if you know what I mean. So getting right to the point with a thought-provoking concept that we don't hear much about, and it's that rebellion began in the heavenly control center, not on earth with Adam and Eve. It all began with Lucifer's campaigning throughout the universe that God's ways were too hard. This behavior led him to take issue against God's character, with him saying he had a better way of government. It said that Lucifer's politics was so convincing that 1/3 of the angels sided with him. Now here's the concern. Since rebellion did begin in heaven and not with Adam and Eve, then why is the Christian world focused on legal solutions for being saved? It seems as though this takes priority over the heavenly issue of God's character. The reason I'm saying this is because salvation just might be a whole lot simpler than all the religions of the world are making it out to be, especially after listening to the rest of the story that Jesus couldn't tell us until now. You'll soon discover that the picture becomes very clear in how all the religions of the world are likened to attorneys arguing over the legalities of how to be saved. Could this be nothing more than a diversion to keep us so busy that we won't have time to even notice that the controversy over God's character is and should be the main issue? Because just in case you didn't know, Romans 3:4 reveals that it's God's character that's been on trial. But since Satan doesn't want us to know that, it doesn't appear to even be an issue. But without a doubt, we can be found arguing over legal solutions for gaining God's forgiveness. But if I understand properly, God's forgiveness is always there for the asking. In other words, it's not even an issue to be arguing over. Well, it seems as though Satan has simply made a fool of himself in trying to outdo God's way of government. So far, in trying to make God look bad, he's really went too far, within thinking he could get intelligent people to believe things that make no sense. In other words, Satan's ways are about to be unmasked for all thinking people. Now, before ripping off Satan's mask, there is one thing to know. Just in case you discover that you have also been deceived, the message within Acts 16:31 states that God will save all who trust him. So fear not. There's still room at the cross for a teachable, spirited person that has learned to trust God for who he is, aside from the benefits in how we are saved. We may have been so excited about being saved from the slavery of this world that we never question the details of what the actual process made God the Father look like. So here goes. It's a simple process to rip off Satan's mask, where he's caught accusing God of having the character of a satanic monster. So if you are listening, you just may notice the character of Satan within the questions below. Question: is our loving God really saying that if we don't love him, he will torture us forever and ever in some so-called down-under place called hell? Are we sure we have that straight? Does it really make any sense that a loving God would have a place of torture? Or is this Satan simply telling more lies about God? And again, how can this ever make any sense when we put these questions alongside of Jesus saying, "If you have seen me, you have seen the Father"? So is it any wonder that the atheists and skeptics of the world don't want any part of this way of thinking? Now, with those thought-provoking questions only being the tip of the iceberg, among many more within my writings, how about it? Could you be into learning more about the God that Jesus came to reveal? Did you know that Jesus had a message that was all about his Father, which some of us call the good news in the gospel? I'm wondering if you caught that. because Jesus himself said it in John 17, of which my writings are saturated with. You'll soon discover that my writings only talk about Christ and him crucified, or in other words, the kind of person God is and why he came to die. So again, could you be into learning more about the God that Jesus came to reveal? Or might you be one of those that are thinking you already have plenty of oil for your lamp? If so, my question for all of us is, are we sure we have it all straight? Are we sure we know God? Remember, John 17:3 states that knowing God is eternal life. So I was thinking that it wouldn't be a bad idea for all of us to ask ourselves if we're really sure, we know God. So could I challenge your thinking just a little as a test by explaining the real reason behind why there is no other way into heaven but through Jesus? Would you believe that God the Father is going to trust that Jesus is not going to allow anyone through the gate without a teachable spirit and a humble willingness to listen? So could that concept have a little different meaning than you're used to hearing? And just so you don't miss it, I'll repeat it. Would you believe that God the Father is going to trust that Jesus is not going to allow anyone through the gate without a teachable spirit and a humble willingness to listen? The reason I say this is because with all the different religions represented in heaven, within our free will choice, God would have an impossible task getting us all straightened out if we didn't have a teachable spirit and a humble willingness to listen. And by the way, just in case you didn't know, when we get to heaven is when Heavenly Universe 101 begins, even for us teachers and pastors, which all of us may be amazed at what we hear, the same as those that heard astonishing things coming from a 12-year-old boy named Jesus. Enough said? So hopefully you'll find my writings informative enough to sweep away many a mystery to the point of realizing that spiritual things really can make sense. You may even find that 2 plus 2 really does equal 4. So with that being said, you'll discover on the next page how easy and inexpensive it really is to purchase my over 30 years of writings in both ebook and audio formats that contain the shocking information that Jesus couldn't tell us long ago. See you next time.